Hi, I'm Simon Kensington-Fellows, and this is a quick mini audit website review for a computer repair company that is looking to improve their search visibility for keywords around Romford and a few other little places. So for those of you that haven't seen any of my audits before, then I use a template here, this notepad document, just to keep me on track and so that we can cover the 5 major areas that we need to look at when we're reviewing a website for its visibility and looking for opportunities to improve that. And so just very quickly, we're going to be looking at the search terms that the website is targeting and making sure that they're the sort of keywords that the customers that we want are actually using to find our services. Then we're going to look at our on-page optimization, and we're going to see whether or not the pages that we have match those search queries that our potential customers are likely to be using. And then we're going to use that information to look at the way in which our site is constructed and making sure that we have all of the basic pages that a website needs, or that Google expects a website to have to show that there's trust on the site, and also to make sure that we have the right pages in the right places to target those keywords, and especially with local, looking at targeting those locations as well. And then we're going to look at the brand and how well is the business established online, and that will tie in with Google My Business as well. And then lastly, we'll look at site speed and look to see how certain parts of website speed affects rank, and which areas we need to really be focusing on, because there's a lot of misinformation about site speed out there. So we'll cover that. Usually these audits take somewhere between sort of half an hour to 60 minutes. And one thing that I would say up front is, if you're thinking about making changes to your site, one of the kind of rules of thumb, if you like, is to add stuff before you take it away. So if you see something in one of my videos where I'm talking about, content being in the right place or the wrong place, or you're not needing this, or recommending that perhaps this would be better somewhere else, please don't just go ahead and delete a load of stuff from your site expecting it to rank better, because it probably won't. SEO is about, or your rankings are determined by, as much as anything else, the content on your page. And so we're looking at refining that content rather than just tearing it down and starting again. If you've got no rankings to start off with, and it's a fairly new site, then by all means go for it. But if you've got any rankings at all, and those rankings are bringing in telephone calls and customers and revenue that you're using to pay yourself and your staff, etc., then please don't just rip stuff out of your website. Add stuff until you get to the stage where you can't tweak it anymore. And if it hasn't got to where you want it to be, then you can start looking at, well, perhaps there's stuff on the page that's harming my rankings. So then you can start looking at as a kind of a last resort, if you like. So with that being said, let's just move on. Now I just need to find the note pad with the... Right, here we go. So these are the keywords in the website that we're going to be looking at. And so to start off with, I just want to use the first few questions of looking at, what is the website, really putting ourselves in the shoes of a visitor. And when you're looking at a website, you can use these questions here and answer them honestly, and it'll help you to decide whether or not the stuff that you've got on your page is helping or hindering you from a user's point of view. Now, my background is as a local business owner as it happens, in the computer repair, computer support niche. And so I know as business owners, we're all very passionate about the stuff that we have on our websites. And sometimes we can't see the wood for the trees. And we don't realise that when you're somebody who's looking for, in this instance, computer support, that certain things on the page aren't relevant. All they want to do is to know whether or not you fix their problem, whether or not you're open, and whether or not you're trustworthy, and what's your phone number. Those are generally the things that most people are looking for, certainly at the outset. So we can see here, when you refresh the page, that this is about computer problems, which is great. We can see that, and then as you scroll down, there's a bit more information about the services and things. And as we see here, this suddenly changes to a huge grey ad, and there's another ad that follows it. Now, when you're looking at this, there isn't really a clear path for a customer to follow, if you like. There's an awful lot of information on here, and if somebody's got a computer problem and they want to know whether or not you're open and whether or not you fix it, then a lot of this stuff on the home page could be distracting. Now, I'm not a great fan of these big images at the top called hero images. There have been various studies on the web that have shown that they do reduce conversions. Now this here is great because it keeps your focus. You know exactly what it is and who they are, but all of a sudden it disappears, and then it goes on to these two adverts, one for antivirus and one for inks, which, if you're looking for a computer problem, someone to solve a computer problem, then cheap inks and antivirus probably aren't really helpful for you at that stage. So I would consider perhaps removing these and just keeping this up here, having a big phone number. And the reason that I say all this is because, from experience of running a computer repair shop for about 15 years, is that the majority of my customers, probably 65%, maybe more, were retired, elderly people. Often their computers, their laptops or their desktops had stopped working in some way or another, and they were using a mobile device. They were using their phone or their iPad or similar tablet. And so when you've got all of this information at the top of the page, it pushes all the other information further down, and you're having to scroll past all of these. And then when you're looking for phone numbers, then this information is really quite small. And if you imagine that on a mobile device with somebody who's at retiring age, whose eyesight probably they may need reading glasses and things like that, it perhaps could be a little bit clearer, just so you can the person who's visiting the site knows that they're in the right place at the right time. So that's kind of really the first impression of the website. It does have a cookie disclaimer on it, which is good for GDPR compliance. A lot of local business sites I look at don't have those. This has disappeared because I've already clicked it and said that yes, I'm happy with that cookie policy, etc. So there's that's all good. And really just to kind of look at the three pillars of local search, the foundations. Those three areas are prominence, relevance and proximity. So when we're looking at our website and we're looking at our Google My Business listing, we need to be thinking about those three areas and how are we developing those so that we are strong in our prominence, relevance and proximity. Now, prominence is about how popular you are online, essentially. How many times is your business mentioned on other websites? And when we're talking about business mentions, we're talking about the business name, the address and the phone number. And for computers to understand like for like, when they're comparing things, they need to have matches. So making sure that your name, address, phone number and website are the same and consistent across all of the other pages on the web that your site is on. So if you've got a Facebook page, making sure that the name, address, phone number and website is the same on there. So if you've upgraded it, your website, for example, to have an SSL, so that you've got the HTTPS secure little green padlock to avoid getting the warning sign popping up in Chrome and Firefox, etc., then you want to make sure that you go to your Facebook page or your Twitter page or your Yelp page and you update the website so that you've got HTTPS, www, or whatever the rest of the domain is. If you've changed your phone number, then making sure that you go through and you change all of those phone numbers across all of your web properties. Otherwise, if they're not the same, Google can't be sure that they're a match, and so you won't get the credit in terms of your prominence. Relevance is about how relevant you are to your business industry, and also how relevant you are to the local area, especially obviously for local search. And so you want to make sure that the website has information on it that enables Google to understand that you're an authority in that particular industry and that your website is all about that. And also, if you want to show up in local search for a particular area, a particular town or particular city, then you need to make sure that your website is relevant for that area as well. And simply having your address on the page isn't enough in terms of relevancy, and there's some things that we can do later on to help improve that. And then the last thing is about proximity, and there's not really a huge amount that you can do about this. Local search is very much about Google providing the searcher, particularly on a mobile device, with the nearest possible solution, which is great if you're hungry and you're looking for pizza. Then if Google serves up a pizza shop that's 10 miles across town, that might not be very convenient. But if you're a lawyer and you're looking for if you're looking for a lawyer, you're looking for some legal advice, you really want the best lawyer, not necessarily the closest lawyer. And the same with things like computer repairs, where you've got professional services where people are going to need to trust what you do. Computer repair shops take in machines with sensitive data and things like that, so they want to be able to trust. So they don't necessarily want the nearest, they want the best. And so when you're looking at the proximity, there's you're at a bit of a handicap, especially if you're in a big town, a GMB. Google My Business profile usually has a radius of 5 to 10 miles, depending on how populated that particular area is. And so if you're on the other side of town, it might be virtually impossible for you to show up unless you do some of the things that we'll talk about when addressing some of the issues that this business has got. So with that all said, the first thing we're going to look at is search terms, because really search terms determines what the website is, how it's set up, what the content is, and so on and so forth. And so you really want to be doing some research to make sure that the keywords that you're targeting are actually the ones that most people are using to search for. And you'd be amazed how many times I look at websites and they either don't have the search term that the person wants to rank for on the page at all, or they're using a search term that another search term is much, much more popular. And it can be an advantage if you're targeting a smaller search phrase that's part of a bigger industry, because it's easier to rank for those keywords in some instances. But when you're a local business and you're looking for, within an area to cover a certain set of services, you really need to be looking at using the services or using the phrases that your customers will be using to find you, rather than what you think they might be using, and so on. So here's an example of this. This business is looking at targeting, I think it was PC and laptop repair, Romford, and so one of the first things that I like to do is just to check to see whether or not that's likely to be the best set of keywords. And so there's a few things that we can do to check that. And one of them, if we've got a Google My Business profile, we can go there and look at the insights. When you log into this is my old business, the GMB is still up. When you go to the insights, you can change it from 1 week to 1 quarter. It will give you the queries that people are using to find your business. So you can see here that we specialised in Apple and Mac repairs as well, so we get quite a lot of Apple related queries, but we can see that computer repair is you can see that several times in the top 10. So I know from experience as well that computer repair, here we go, computer repair services, so on, is a lot more popular than say PC repair as a search term or laptop repair. Another place that you can go to look is using Google Trends. Now you go to you can Google Trends and it will come up, and then switch it to the location that you're after. We're after the UK, so we'll scroll down. It's probably an easier way, but there we go. And we want to search for computer repair, and we'll start to get some data for that, and then we can start to compare it. So we can compare that to PC repair as a search term, and laptop repair as a search term. So we can see here that by way of trends, that computer repair is the most used search phrase, followed by laptop repair, and PC repair is coming in third in this comparison. And there are, you can look at different regions. So you can see here for England, and then you can look at these related queries. So you can see that they're computer repair shop, computer repair shops. Those are on the rise. Top ones are computer repair, and then PC repair, which is quite a quarter of computer repair. So that's another way that you can use to qualify which are the best keywords. Another way to do it is to use a tool like Ahrefs, and you can put in your keywords here, and you'll see that the monthly volumes are much higher for the computer repair type keywords, more than double the laptop type repairs. So again, that's another way of qualifying, and it also gives you some other ideas as well. And then another way to look at it is to look at what keywords you're actually ranking for. So you put your own website in, and it will tell you, where your website's ranking, what pages are ranking for what. So we can see here that these are position 1, but these are actually images. There's an image carousel on that search, and this business has got one of those images, so that's considered position 1. For other ones here, we can see laptop repairs. We've got a search volume of 60. We've got computer repairs. It's got nearly twice that search volume. So if you were looking to optimize a page for the most popular search term, then you'd certainly be wanting to optimize it for computer repair, because that seemingly is what most people will be looking for. And you want to make sure that when you're looking at these keywords is that you're creating one page per keyword. And so and then that also goes for your locations. You can't have a homepage and expect to rank all of your business services on that one page. It just doesn't work that way in the vast majority of cases. Of course, there are some exceptions. So you really want to be looking at, well, what services do I want to show up for in local search, and make sure that you have a page that's dedicated to that particular search term. Things like plurals, they can be two searches. Often if you look for computer repair and computer repairs, you'll get two different lists in the search results. So again, you want to look at, well, which one has got the highest search volume, and make sure that you're optimizing your page primarily for the one that's got the most search. So if computer repairs is got the highest search, then you would want to optimize for that primarily, but you would also include computer repair on the page somewhere, so that you stand a good chance of showing up for that as well. And there is a plugin that you can get, an extension for Chrome, where called Keywords Everywhere. It's this little one up here, and what that does is it adds in this information here, the monthly volume and the cost per click, and it also adds these other keywords down here. So if we were looking for computer repair Romford, then once it's populated, it says it's got 110 monthly searches there. And if we do PC repair, we can see that that's registering as a 0 monthly search. Now, it's highly unlikely that it is actually 0, but it just means that the search volume is below a threshold that it reports on. So again, all of these things are telling us a story that we need to reflect on our website if we want to make sure that we show up for the vast majority of searches. Another way of finding keywords is to put your competitors into a tool like Ahrefs, and I'll show you a free alternative as well. And so by doing that, you can see that this company here, one of their most popular, these are branded keywords, but one of their, the top one is computer repair Romford, and they're position 2 for that, and their homepage is ranking. And so you can get some good insights as to what pages are ranking for what, and instead of putting a competitor in, you can put a web page in and see all the keywords that page is ranking for as well. Now, one of the alternatives that's free is a tool called Ubersuggest, and you can see here you can put in a keyword and it will bring out the suggested keywords that are similar to that, and then you've got related keywords and so on. And so you can put in a website and you'll get the similar thing that you did with Ahrefs, using this traffic analyzer, looking at top pages and keywords and so on and so forth. So there's a few resources that you can use that will help you to establish whether or not you've got the right keywords targeted on the right pages. And so once we've established that we're targeting the right keywords, we also want to look at where those keywords are in the sales funnel. Now, there's 3 main types of keywords: informational keywords, navigational keywords, and transactional keywords. Informational keywords tend to be kind of top to middle of the sales funnel. They're sort of how-tos, comparisons, that kind of thing. People are looking for reviews, looking for how to find something, they're looking how does something work, what is something, those kind of, they want information. Then there's navigational search, and that can be things like brand names, where they're using brand searches, so they know what they want, they're just trying to find it. And so that's a type of navigational search. And then there's transactional, which is the one that generates the money, and that's best, cheapest, most reliable, most trustworthy, whatever it might be, as a as an add-on to the main keyword. It's those keywords that are, where to buy, those sorts of things. And those sorts of transactional keywords tend to be closer to the bottom of the funnel. They're the ones that are easier to convert because they already know what they're looking for, they've done the research, and they want something now. And depending on what your business model is, for a local business, that could either be let's say for example, an emergency plumber, and it's the middle of the night and someone's got a burst pipe and they're looking for, emergency plumber, then the sales funnel is really, really short. They're just after that transactional data. They want to know, are you open? What's your phone number? How soon can you come? And so, whereas if you were, say, doing loft conversion, I know in London, for example, the average loft conversion is around about £50,000. So the sales funnel for that is vastly different to the emergency services, or those services where the pain is really quite prominent and they need to have a solution quickly, pest control, that kind of thing. So think about the sorts of keywords and how they relate to the sales funnel and what sort of content that you should have. If you were doing the loft conversion scenario, then you probably want to have lots of information about what loft conversions are, the types of loft conversions that are available, videos of conversions that are before and after, that sort of thing. And then you want to bring those people down through the sales funnel to the more transactional keywords, and that may well be done through collecting emails, phone numbers, and then following up off the website and arranging for a sales visit, that kind of thing, to the plumbers or electricians or that kind of thing, where you want something immediately. And so you just need to make sure that the site is trustworthy, that you've got some reviews on there, social proof that you do a good job. Phone number is easy to see, your hours of opening are easy to see, and they can find that button to call. So a click to call button, particularly on a mobile device, makes it even easier for people to find you. So just bear all of those sort of things in when you're thinking about the pages that you should have on your site and which keywords go to which page. So once we've decided all of that, we then need to look at the optimization, and this is where we start to refine our pages so that they show up higher in the Google search rankings. Now there's several major places on a web page that send the strongest signals to Google that the page is about a certain topic. Now the most important is the URL, and so if you have your keyword in the URL, then that's going to be really sends the strongest signal, which is why we have something called exact match domains, where you've got computerrepairromford.co.uk. That's likely to rank really well for that term because it's an exact match keyword in the URL. It may not rank very well for other keywords, but for that particular one, it's likely to rank very well. And then if you've got a branded domain where you've got your brand name in there, which is probably the ideal scenario for long-term growth, then having your main keyword in the URL, certainly for the home page, isn't practical. So the next best place to have your main keyword is the front of the page title, and that's the little bit of text that you see when you hover over a tab in your browser. So here you can see it pops up with computer, PC, laptop repairs, Romford, and then it's got the brand. And so that's the page title. So that's the next most significant place that you want to put your main keyword. And again, you want to use it at the front. Google reads left to right when it's looking at English speaking or Western language. And then you want to then the next area is the H1 tag, and that's a heading tag, and each page should only ever have one H1 tag, and that should be again front loaded with your exact match keyword, computer repair Romford, for example. Now if you add something else to that, such as computer repair Romford, highest rated computer repair company or whatever it might be, you don't want to over optimize it by putting computer repair in too many times, but you can play around with those. so that you can create some kind of urgency or some kind of hook with that H1 tag, but you want to make sure that the main keyword is front loaded in that H1 tag. Then your H2s and H3 tags, again additional heading tags, they should be where you use very closely related keywords to your main keyword term. So you're thinking about theming a page around a particular keyword. These H2 and H3 spots, that's where you add in those very closely related keywords. So you're not distracting or diluting from the main keyword. So you're not putting in virus removal in an H2 and data recovery in an H3. You're keeping it focused on computer repair, you're using synonyms or words that are closely related to the main search term. And then in your H4, I would usually use that main keyword but wrapped in a call to action. So it'd be like, you know, computer repair, Romford, book now, something like that. Now the biggest problem that most WordPress sites have is that theme developers got lazy, and instead of using CSS and for styling, they tend to use HTML tags. And so when you look at your page and you see the various different headings on the page, you'll see that they're actually H2 and H3 tags, and those are kind of built into the theme, which is not very good for your optimization. So if your theme is one of those themes that instead of using font size or CSS to size those headings properly, then you either need to go into the page builder and make those changes manually if you can. If you can't, you may need to get a developer in to change the CSS IDs on those particular places so that they are properly tagged and that they don't dilute your relevance to that particular keyword. And then just a few other quick places that you certainly want to be putting your keywords, and that is in the first paragraph and the last paragraph. You definitely want them in there. And then I would also put them at least once, if not twice, elsewhere in the document, depending on the content. But at this occasion, I would probably bold one of those keywords and italicize one of the other ones. So I tend to put 4 in. I'll have one in the first paragraph and one in the last paragraph. I'll have at least 500 to 1,000 words on the page. If I've not got that much, then the last paragraph one I might bold. But I try and make sure that I've got one at the front, one at the back, and then a bolded version of it and a italicized version of it. The next thing you want to make sure is that the keyword is in your meta description, and also making sure that your image, you have at least one image on the page, and that image file name is the keyword. So it would be computerrepair.jpg, for example, or computerrepairromford.jpg, and you want to make sure that the alt tag is the keyword as well. So you want to make sure that that keyword is in the alt text. And you also would be a good idea to add in information about the target keyword in the comment section of the photo. Each image has metadata, and if you right click on an image on a PC and go to properties, you can then see in the details section that you can add information into things like the title, the name of the file. You can put in star ratings, you can put in tags, you can put in comments. So it'd be a good idea to optimize it for not only the keyword but the location as well. So that's probably the main areas of optimization that you want to look at. I think I've got a more comprehensive list, if I can find it here. It keeps disappearing. Is it this one? Here we go. So excuse me, so this is just a list here of a few more bits and pieces that you can use when you're looking at on-page optimization. And I'll put a copy of that in the description of the video, along with this checklist here. And so the next thing you want to look at is your site structure. And when you're looking at site structure, for Google to think that this is a legit site, it's expecting to have a certain number of pages, certain types of pages. Most legit business sites have certain pages. And so those basic kind of standard pages are things like a home page, an about page, contact, terms of service, privacy page, any pages that are required by local legislation for GDPR, for example. And if you don't have those pages, then it makes your site seem a little odd, because if you're a legitimate business, coming up with a terms of service page wouldn't be a problem. Coming up with an about page wouldn't be a problem. Coming up with a contact page, wouldn't be a problem, because you're a legitimate business and you have contact details. Whereas if you were creating a site, for example, for affiliate marketing, where you're reviewing different products and things like that, you're not actually a company. You're just using your site to make money from clicks from ads and things. Then coming up with a contact page is quite tricky, because you don't necessarily want to give your own details. So names, addresses, phone numbers, those kind of things can be a little bit sketchy. But if you're a real business, then having these things is no problem at all. All legitimate businesses have them, and so you should make sure that these are clearly laid out on your site on these certain pages. And so on your about page, you want information about your business. When did it start? What does it do? Who's involved? If you've got qualifications, where did you get those qualifications from? Put links to your your university or your industry body that's auditing you, that kind of thing. You've got a link to your LinkedIn page where you've probably got your CV and things like that on there. So you really want to make sure that your About Us page is as fully filled out with links to all these relevant places, so that it backs up what it is that you say that you do. And if you say you're the best in a particular industry, then the chances are that you've got qualifications, whether they're exams or whether they're other people have certified you in a certain way. You've got industry qualifications, you've got college degrees or whatever it might be. If you say you're the best, you're likely to have those, and so it would be a good idea to list those on the About page, and then link out to the governing body, the trade association, whatever it might be. If you've got a BTEC in computer science, then link out to the college and link out to the course, that kind of thing. And with your contact details, make sure that you've got at least a landline. I know some businesses, a mobile number is important because you're on the road all the time or whatever, but a legitimate business usually has an office and they have a landline telephone. And if you want to rank locally, it would be a good idea for that landline number to be a local area code to the area that you want to rank in. Now, the way I get around that is on my mobile phone, use Vodafone, and they have a service whereby you can get a local number, but when somebody calls that local number, it actually goes through to my mobile, so it's automatically redirected, and it doesn't cost me anything. So there are ways of having a local number, even if it's just a VoIP number, a voice over the internet number. They can come as cheap as a couple of pounds a month, and then you can just forward that to your mobile. But it's worthwhile having a local number with a dialing code of the area that you want to serve. Making sure that you've got your privacy page in terms of service. When you're going through those, even if you get a template from the web, make sure that you go through and you fill in the proper details for your business. Not only is it helpful for Google, adding that extra trust, but it's also usually legally compliant. If you're a limited company, then you should have your company number and so on at on the page. In some place you should have your registered office on the site somewhere that's easy to find. So making sure you're compliant goes a long way to building out trust and ranking well. The other thing that you want to look at with your site structure is keeping your URLs really short and succinct, and making sure that you're using if you've got a marketing page, you want it /marketing, not some 3, 4, 5 letter phrase. If you've got a branding page, make it /branding. For me, I'm talking, one of my pages on my website is all about local SEO. So the page is just local SEO. And then in my page title, I expand on that a little bit more. So making sure that your main keyword that you want the page to rank for is short and sweet, and in that, on that page URL. And in WordPress, usually you'll find that the whole page title becomes the URL, and most people will just accept that and save the page, and they find that they've got this really long URL. But what you can actually do is, underneath that title, is you can click to edit what's called the slug, and so you can change that to anything you like. So you'll still have your page title that's descriptive for your keyword, but then the slug will be your main keyword, and so you want to keep them nice and short. The other thing that you want to do is that keywords closer to the root of the domain are more powerful or have more prominence. So let's say, for example, on location pages, if you've got several folders before your location, and I think there's an incident of that on this site that we're looking at here, where on the about page we've got areas we cover, and then we've got a location page. So we've got 2 hops before we get to this here, whereas if we had the domain /PC laptop repair Dagenham, then that would send a stronger signal to Google than all the way down here, because Google will look at the hierarchy, and so this is at the bottom of the pile, whereas this is now saying that this page is more important than this page. Well, actually we want to rank this page, so this page should be equally as important as this page, so we should change the structure of our site to reflect that. Now, if your situation is similar to this and you do make those changes, you want to make sure that you add a plugin to redirect the old URL to the new one. Otherwise you'll get a 404 page, which, although 404s in themselves aren't particularly damaging, if you've got links that are going to that page, or you've got traffic coming to that page and it hits a 404 page, then the links won't count and the traffic will bounce off somewhere else, so you're losing those user engagement signals. So you definitely want to get a plugin which will do a 301 redirect, something like Simple 301 Redirects or Redirection will help you do that, so you can easily redirect those pages to be closer to the domain. And so that's pretty much it. With site structure for WordPress, WordPress creates lots of duplicate content, and duplicate content, although in itself for local sites isn't necessarily a bad thing or a harmful thing in the way that it can be for kind of national sites or kind of general universal type, like dog care or something like that, as opposed to a local search. You really want to make sure that your site isn't full up of rubbish pages, and so by default WordPress will create tag pages. If you're using tags, they'll create category pages, they'll create blog archive pages, they'll create author pages, they'll create date archive pages. And essentially, if you've got a page, or let's say a blog post, and that blog post has got tags and it's got a date the date in the URL, and it's in a category, then you'll find that you're going to have at least 3 or 4 exact copies of that one page on your website. So instead of just having your blog page, there'll be the tag archive, so that'll include a copy of the page. There'll be the date archive, that'll include a copy of the page. There'll be the author archive if you're using authors, so that's 3 copies of it. And if you're using categories, then there's likely to be another copy of it within that category post. And then you've got the blog itself, so you can have 4 or 5 of the same page. And what that does is it makes your site really heavy, full of content that's the same. So when Google's crawling your site looking for new content, your crawl budget is being wasted because you've got all this bloat, if you like. So using a tool like a plugin like Yoast SEO, for example, you can easily turn off which of those pages gets indexed. And so this site has done that, and there isn't any of those kind of rubbish pages. So that's a good thing that this site has got. And I think when I've got to use a tool here called Sitebulb, and we can see that there's a sitemap here, and that this is quite a nice site in as much as it's quite well organized, different kind of what we call silos of information, and there isn't a load of wasted cruddy type of links that are going to do more harm, not links, sorry, pages, they're going to do aren't going to do it any benefits. So make sure that you use the plugin like Yoast to easily turn those things off. And we can see that again. This is a Screaming Frog crawl, and Screaming Frog is a free product up to 500 URLs, and you just simply install it on your computer or your Mac, put in your domain name, and if it's under the 500 URLs, then you get the whole site. If it's over 500, then it stops at that, and I think it's about 150 a year if you've got a big site. But it is a really useful tool to very quickly see what sort of issues you might have on your site. So you could go through here, and if you had a load of tags pages, then you'd see them show up in this list of URLs. We've got categories here, but that probably isn't the end of the world. But if we had categories and we had author pages and we had date archives and we had tags and that, then it would be a bit too much. And you can also use this to look at page titles. When you're thinking about what are my page titles, you can use this tool to look very quickly, are there any missing page titles? No, this site is good because it hasn't got any missing. Has it got page titles over 65 characters? 65 characters is roughly the cutoff when you're looking at the search results, and it usually gets truncated. So what you want to try and make sure is that you have all of the relevant information, such as your keywords and any kind of clickbaity type thing to induce the click, is within that 65 characters so that it shows up. And another thing is, on your home page you definitely want the brand, but on other pages you don't necessarily want the brand on it. So you can use that space to make the title really click worthy. And one of the ways in which you can come up with ideas on how to create click worthy titles is to do a search for your keyword and see what's coming up in the Google ads. Google ads are often written by copywriters. Some of them aren't, but a lot of them will be written by professional marketers, and so they've created or got a knack of being able to condense the keyword and the call to action in a really in a way that really induces you to click on that ad. So that's a free resource that you can use. Look and see which ones which ads appeal to you, and then use those as your titles, making sure that you put the keyword in at the front. And so there's a free resource there that you can use to make sure that you're optimizing your titles. Other things, if we've got any duplicates, what you don't want is duplicate page titles. And what we can see here is this is the blog archive, where we've got these are paginated pages on the blog, and so they're all repeating. There isn't that many, so it's probably not going to do any harm, but if you've got a site with hundreds of these pages, then it's probably something that you want to look at. And then we can look at meta descriptions. You can use this to very quickly see if you've got any issues with your meta description. So you can see if we've got any missing meta descriptions. No, that's good. Have we got meta descriptions that are too long? Again, they get truncated. So if you've got a message that you're putting in your meta description, and again you really want to be using this as an advert to entice the click, along with adding your keyword, it's been proven that adding the keyword to the meta description is important. So you want to make sure that your meta descriptions read correctly and are easy to see. Are they too short? Again, you're missing opportunities there to really get the click. Again, duplicates. You don't want duplicate. Google has said in their guidelines that they want to see individual meta descriptions. Have you got meta keywords on the page? Meta keywords, you don't want to be using those on your website. Your H1s, if we've got missing H1s, where we've got these pages here, minify page isn't a real page. There's a shop page. This post here doesn't have an H1 tag. So that might be something to look at. Duplicates, again, we've got this blog thing. And this is an example of the duplicates where you've got the category page. So that could be redirected if it isn't already. Images. Have we got heavy images? Well, all our images are under 100, which is good. Missing out text. So we've got lots of images here that are missing alt text. It may be that it's not really appropriate, but this is an opportunity. Judging from some of these file names, they're probably icons or something, but it would be definitely worthwhile using that as a place to add another keyword. And then you can go on. So Screaming Frog is a great free resource for looking at issues on the site, and there's some good YouTube videos to show you how to use it all. So whilst we're looking at the page, you can see the site bulb report. We've got some hints here. These are some of the issues that it's found with a page. Page speed is an issue. We'll come on to that later. And then come down here to some of the SEO ones. So we've got, again, images with missing alt text, title tags too long, too short, meta descriptions too short, H1, so on and so forth. So there's lots of opportunities there where we can just tighten up things, but generally speaking, the site's pretty good. Now looking at GMB, pages, local businesses rely on the Google My Business. About 60% or thereabouts of phone calls and clicks come through being in the 3-pack. That's the map section at the top of a local search. And so this page here is how well this site, this Google My Business, is ranking locally. Now each of these circles is a kilometre. We've got 13 by 13 grid. So generally speaking, I think I mentioned at the beginning, your GMB is liable to show up between 5 and 10 miles from your location. So if you're based on the other side of town, you might find it difficult to show up. Now as we're looking here, we can see that really close by we're ranking well, 1, 2 and 3, so we're in that 3-pack, which is great. But as we start moving over here, we're falling out of the 3-pack, and so there's opportunities here to optimize our GMB and our site. There's something called the blended algorithm, which Google uses stuff on the website as well as stuff in the GMB to improve the rankings overall. And then over here we can see that we're not ranking at all well over here. So if this is an area that we want to show up in, then we've got some work to do to optimize our GMB and our location pages so that we show up better over here. So this gives you a kind of an overview of how much work you've got to do. So if you wanted to show up over here, then you've probably got less work than if you wanted to show up on this side. And one of the ways that you can show up is by having what are called citations. So I've run a search here using a tool called Bright Local, and a citation is a mention on another website essentially. So it's not only a backlink, but it's also a mention of your business name, address and phone number. And it's this name, address and phone number, the NAP, that is important that you have consistently put all over the web. And so a search here shows us that we've got we've got some duplicate listings, so that's probably a good idea to get those removed. These are the existing citations that we've got, and then down here we've got, these are all the opportunities that we could have. Now, getting into Bing and Apple is really important for local search. A lot of people, particularly older people, use Bing because it's on Internet Explorer, and their laptop or desktop came with Internet Explorer as the default browser and the default search engine, and so a lot of people are using that. And Bing, the average spend on Bing per customer tends to be higher as well. So it's important that you have a presence on Bing. So you can go to Bing Places and you can register there. It's a very similar process to Google My Business. You will get, depending on how prominent you are on the web, you may need to get a postcard delivered to your house or your business premises to verify your address. You may be able to do it with the telephone call, it really depends, but you definitely want to get that sorted out. And Apple Maps you need to do via the phone. It's a phone verification, so you need to be in the office while you do that. But again, that will get you showing up on Apple Maps. Lots of people have iPhones, and so it's important to have that as a citation. And then there are these, lots of these other sites. Some of them individual sites where you go and you register for free. Well, all of these are going to be free. Some of them you need to go to one site, and it's like an aggregator, and so you will eventually filter through other sites. Things like where are we? Some of them are aggregators. Things like Silex, Mr. Watt, Free Index. Some of these are aggregators, so they'll get picked up in other ones. But the most important point here is that this information, the name, address and phone number, should be the same as what Google has for the business. And I think there was a bit of an issue with the address because this address is different. And I did a search and I think I found an issue where perhaps the business owner had, I think it was here, the business owner had contacted or raised an issue with Google, and that search query was indexed, oddly enough, because there is a discrepancy between the Google My Business address and the address that the business owner has on their website. So generally speaking, unless Google's got it horribly wrong, it won't change it. And so it's probably easier to make sure that your citations match the address that Google's got rather than the other way around. As I say, unless of course it leads people to completely the wrong place. But generally speaking, it's easier to go with Google than go against it. And one of the ways that you can see how prominent you are on the web is by doing an address search. So you put your address in quotations, and then it will bring up a lot of these citation sites. And so you can see, that's another way of seeing how many sites you've got. You can put your address, your business name in quotes, and find stuff that way. So definitely want to look at increasing the citations that you have, because that will help with your GMB, and it will also increase the number of backlinks coming to your website as well. So that's good. An example here, this is a good example of where we're using Web 2.0s to increase the prominence of our business. We've got a simple post on with using our brand name, and it's got our address and phone number on there. There are hundreds of sites that you can use. If you go to a website called noam.com, you'll see, I wouldn't necessarily get these guys to do it because they're quite expensive, but you'll see there's like over 500 of these different types of sites. And so you can put your brand name in here and it will tell you, which ones are available. So, this is a really good way of increasing your prominence, the amount of places on the web that are talking about your business. So simply going here and then register an account in as many of these as you can, and just simply creating the account with a brand name, and then just putting a short description and your name, address, phone number and website on there. And that's enough to help create this extra prominence. So I would make sure that that's a priority. Make sure that that they get into Google's index, because they're not always guaranteed. So you might need to do a bit of jiggery pokery there to make sure that all these sites actually get indexed. But I usually, on a campaign, I usually start off by registering about 200 of these different, just to really help build that foundation of brand prominence. And then again, you can do this for niche relevancy as well. You can create another set of all of these accounts, and instead of having the brand name as the profile name, you have things like computer repair Romford as your main keyword, as the title for those. So you're building a really good foundation, and you can interlink all of these things together. So that's another thing that I would look to help with your GMB. But also, whilst we're talking about the GMB, you really want to make sure you take advantage of all aspects. I haven't been able to see this business's GMB, so I don't know what whether or not they've done any of this, but you want to fully out as fully as possible. So I've got my categories in here, got the address, the service area, I've got all of the opening hours, the website. I've got a different website for the appointment URL, and I've gone through, added in services. Description has got all the keywords in it. I've filled out the opening date, photos, uploaded lots of photos, and they've all been optimized with geotagging, so they've got the GPS data. You can use a site called Geo Imager. You can use this for free, and this will help you to add the geo coordinates to your images that get sent up to your Google My Business. Now, it's fair to say that Google will strip out that data, but it's seen it on the way up. And then once you've created all of those images, you can then use those all over the web. So when you're looking at these other accounts that I was talking about, you can add your optimized photos to those. You can put them on photo sharing sites, all that kind of thing. You can use them on thumbnails in your videos and so on. So lots of those things will help you with your GMB. You want to make sure that you've created your GMB website, and that you're starting to use GMB posts now as well. Those will help to create the prominence and relevancy for the geo area as well. One of the things that you can do to help with your relevancy is on your location pages. You want to make sure that you're talking about that particular area, and that you've got in the H1s, the H2s, H3s and so on, you've got all of the keywords and stuff like that. And then here we've got a list of other little local areas that are around this particular page, and this is a map of places of interest. So there's information on here that's relevant to the area. This is another example of a client where we created location pages for their business, and on these location pages, we put in our, I think this is the H1, then we've got a slightly different H2, and then we've got some social proof, and then here we've got some information about that particular area, and we've got a map, and we've got a video, and this is a video that's geotagged for that particular area. And we've got here some links directly to, these are places that they've played. So these are local, well-known local businesses, local venues in the area, and we're linking out to them. We've got a little bit of information about Chester, and we've got some frequently asked questions. And so, creating a location page that has information specific to that particular area will really help that page become more relevant to that place. So that's the sort of thing you want to be putting on your local pages. So I think here we've got, here we go. Yeah, so we've got links to some of the places, and that goes to Wikipedia. I'll try and avoid Wikipedia. Google knows that all SEOs use Wikipedia, so there's other places like Britannia that you can use for location information. You want to have some authority outbound links. That's a good tactic. Just kind of mix them up. You've got things like Wikidata, where you can link out to computer repair. There's a Wikidata page on computer repair, so that helps with the relevance of the page. You could put some local driving directions, where you've got these this here. You could write in what some of those driving directions are. That's always another good thing to do. So you've got the text there of the instructions for the driving directions, as well as the map. So you can just make this a bit more about Dagenham and a bit more about Chadwell Heath, and you'll find that will improve not only your GMB but also your local search. And then this is another example of how to make yourself relevant to the area, and that is that you want to create a series of pages that are all about that particular area. And they're not pages that are seen from a navigation, but they are seen in your sitemap, so Google will see them. You can submit them to Search Console. But pages like this here, this is a page all about Kettering. This is where this business wants to rank. And so this is the page all about Kettering, and it's got links back to the web page, back to the main page we want to rank, with the main keyword for that area, so the location word. Then we've got some outbound links here. There's a Wikipedia, there's a Britannia.com one. This image is straight out of Google image search. Switch it so that you use the ones that are free to use for commercial use. Google already knows that this is about Kettering, so it's going to add relevancy to the page. Here we've got mentioning local airports, and then we've got driving directions, and in these driving directions we're actually using some of the things that we mention in the actual page itself, so that gives us extra relevance. And then the next page is all about places to shop. So this is another page all about the location area, but in this time we're talking about shopping. So we've got we're linking out to the different areas, different shopping places in the town. Again, this is a Google image that's free to use, linking out to shopping centres. These H tags are relevant to that particular area. Again, we've got driving directions map, where each of the stops is one of the areas that we've talked about in our page. So again, it becomes super rich, targeted to that particular area. So we've got this page links to this page links back to the home page, or the page that we're trying to rank for that area. This page will link back to the page that we're trying to rank. So then we've got places to stay. And so, I usually do 4 or 5 of these. So this is you just see the back end. So this is places to stay. So these are popular hotels in the area that are, all about Kettering. So this is linking to the Kettering Travel Lodge page, the Kettering Holiday Inn Express page, And then again, this driving directions is including those different hotels in there. And then we've got actual physical handwritten driving directions, and so on. So you get the picture. I think the last one is like things to do in Kettering, and so this is kind of leisure stuff. And again, this is linking back to the main Kettering page that we want to rank. Again, using Google Images, different activities that you can do in and around, and again incorporating all of those in the driving directions. And so, depending how competitive your area is, I would do at least 4 or 5 of these types of pages, and then each one of these links to each other, and they all link to the page that you want to boost. So if you're doing a Romford page, then do a series of these for Romford, and then if you're still struggling to rank, you can do another set of these pages for the industry. So you do a set of pages about computer repair, and each of the pages gets more specific about the topic. So you might start off talking about computer repair in general terms, and the next one might be virus repair, and that computer repair links to the virus repair one, and then the virus repair one talks to data recovery page, and so on and so forth. So you're getting more specific. You might talk the next one, from talking about data recovery, the next one might be tools that you use for data recovery, and these posts only need to be 300 to 500 words, so they don't need to be long, but these and they don't need to be visible to the on the navigation, so your customers are likely to find them, but Google will find them, and it really helps to add that relevance when we're looking at the 3 pillars of proximity and relevance. That's how we build the relevance and proximity, because we've got lots of content on our site that talks about this. Our GMB will be talking about this as well in our local posts and things like that. Last 2 things I want to talk about is structured data. Structured data is schema markup. On this page, there isn't much that's of any use to your business, unfortunately. This is an example of one of my sites, and you can see here that it's marked up as a professional service, and this schema data is using code that Google understands, and so it's telling Google in a way that it understands exactly what this page is about, down to how much it costs, linking to my other sites around the web. So I'm helping to link all those things together for the Prominence, and this talks about the sort of services that we do. It's got my logo, and then we're talking about the areas that we're serving. So I'm telling Google I serve Northampton, and then we've got the geo coordinates for these places, and then we've got a definition of what Kettering is. So not only are we saying that we serve Kettering, but we're telling Google, if you want to know what Kettering is, go to this page and find out, and so on and so forth. We've got the geo coordinates of the areas, we've got our opening times, and these match our GMB and they match the opening times on our website. So structured data is an important thing to be adding to all local business websites and other sites. And you can mark up your videos, you can mark up your posts, you can mark up your service pages, you can mark up your reviews. And then the last thing I want to talk about is speed. And this website needs a little bit of help with its speed. The 3 things that you're interested in when looking at speed, and the best tool to use is webpagetest.org, is your first time to first byte, your start render, and your first paint time. Now your first byte should be under 0.3 seconds. Your start render time should be under 2 seconds, ideally, and the first paint should be around about 2.5 seconds. So, and your total load time should be under 3 seconds or 4 seconds. So you've got a lot of work here. Now first byte time is often a DNS issue. So it may be that it's the DNS server isn't particularly fast. It may be that also can be to do with the SSL certificate. So generally speaking, the better the hosting, the faster the DNS that you've got. So I recommend WPX hosting. I use that for all my client sites and my own sites. Super fast hosting, WordPress, super secure for WordPress and all the rest of it. And it's easy to get those times down within the recommended tolerances. Speed is a ranking factor, so the faster you make your site, looking at these three things in particular, then the higher you're likely to rank. And some of the things here, you can look at the waterfall to see in more detail where some of the bottlenecks are. And I think looking at it, some of them are to do with some of those hero images. Again, hero images, those big images can delay the site load time. So it'd be good to just double check some of those. So that's really where we're at. I think we've got a good opportunity for. I think basically the site itself is reasonably well optimized. It can be faster. I think the local pages, the targeting can be better. Keyword choice could be a bit better, perhaps looking at targeting more of the computer repairs rather than PC repair or laptop repair specifically. And your GMB, I think there's some opportunity there to help to improve your visibility in these local areas here, seeing as GMBs drive so much traffic. So if you've got any questions, please reach out to me in the group or put them in the comments, and I'm happy to help with anything going forward. All the best.